People, I can't lie, man. I know we've digested the fact that Arsenal are not going to win the Premier League, and we're still in the Champions League. Let's throw all our eggs in that basket. But I think you know where reality lies in that. But regardless of us knowing everything, screaming, shouting, and whatever, naturally, I can't say a lot of our problems are new, but I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me that you're still thinking about the football club. And obviously, with us being down in the dumps, with us not only considering where we face ourselves in year three, obviously, of fighting for the Premier League title, the 2 seasons prior to that, obviously, the signings, the backroom changes, what we didn't or didn't do, and all the other contexts and twists and turns that we've been on, and the injuries, everything that's played a part, sorry, in this season and obviously the last 3 years since we've become quote unquote title challengers and broadly in line with the project, right? I know people, you know me, I don't like this project and these phases and all these crazy words that sound good on paper, where when you're progressing the team and developing the team. And if I use the analogy of a plane, yeah, and you're somewhat following through on the words, there's a lot more that needs to be desired, but ultimately you're fighting for the league. The lip service is matching up with what you're doing on the pitch to a degree. So we're on the plane, but eventually, if we all go on holiday, right? You insert your favorite holiday destination or dream destination, Jamaica, I don't know, Maldives, Mauritius, whatever have you. Imagine you're on that plane. In fact, you imagine you get in the car, wherever you get to the airport, you get in the airport, you check in, you do all that shenanigans, you get on the plane, you sit down, you're on the plane for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, you're watching a movie, you're doing whatever. But at some point, the plane's got to land in it, and you need to be in whatever country you lot in that analogy wanted to be in and enjoying your holiday, getting sand in between your toes and the rest of it. The plane has to eventually land, and the plane's not landing. Again, very graphic, but you can say the plane crashed. And fortunately, we survived somewhat, but we're on a deserted island, questioning how we get back out of the abyss, really. And definitely this season, we can search whatever. By the time we get out, Liverpool will probably have played 4 or 5 games in this analogy of the next season. But obviously, when you're down in the dumps, you consider everything in it. And you lot know me, I'm quite balanced in my opinions. And if you lot want, I'll do more videos like this. But I was kind of thinking, yeah, and admittedly, I can debunk all of my own points, but just for a talking point, is Mikel Arteta gaining too much power at Arsenal Football Club? I was mainly researching to talk about some talking points in relation to Edu, if I'm honest with you, for another video, but I then started to deep it, rightly or wrongly. We all know there's a bit of a power structure. In short, whether you like Edu, didn't like Edu, can question him, and we wish he was on a fly on the wall. We don't know who's right and who's wrong. I think everybody's positioned for power and done some right and done wrong, right? Seen as the fool guy. What if Edu looked at it and said, you know what? I've been on this project as long as Mikel Arteta. I think we can go to the next level. And he's either at loggerheads in what the Cronkies are giving in terms of the budget and what they want to do, or who Mikel Arteta wants to sign. Because you do see things like Edu's power was diminishing. Arteta is getting a bigger say in everything at the club, whether it's recruitment, whether it's all the stuff off the field, the dog, going to buy this, that, and the other. Even the very fact that Mikel Arteta, rightly or wrongly, has a say in the next sporting director. Remember, Arteta arrived at this football club as a head coach, This is his fifth 6 year, give or take, as a manager. 6 years working experience. You're having a say, gone from head coach to be the manager. You're not having a say in hiring the man who hired you in Edu. I'm not even necessarily saying this is good or bad. Clearly, the club are trying to make Arteta a custodian, put him in some sort of Wenger-like figure and stuff. I'm not saying it's good or bad, because as I said, I'm morally sounding more negative around this, but I could paint this in some other way, really. But surely that's not right. Because a lot of the Arteta sexuals will sit there and tell you, oh my God, the elite are going to want him. If he's got all this power and all this say-so, and I'm not saying these things are wrong. You want a manager to have a say in the recruitment and some of the other kind of stuff in line with what we're doing. And he might recommend a good sporting director, a good sporting director for us long term that fits the vision and whatnot. But he's growing in influence on and off the field and above his remit. He's growing in influence in the recruitment. Like, he seems to win the battle generally, not always, but generally for the recruitment, definitely where the big ticket items are concerned, whether we want to do that or not. Yeah, you're getting a big say for someone that's been in the job for 6 years, people. And where you look at it, he signed the new deal. Again, you can question mark the Cronkies or whatever, but being devil's advocate, Mikel Arteta took the role initially. So you knew broadly, and you've been a player here as the Cronkies have gradually grown in experience. You sit here and say they're the best owners. They're giving you 15, definitely not grand, 15 mil a year, a new deal. They're allowing you a say in everything, even when they're looking at the women's coach and all of that kind of stuff. Nobody is coming in at this club generally in terms of recruitments or outgoings unless you say so. We've all seen the all or nothing where at the time Edu and Richard Garlick, rightly or wrongly, weren't trying to get rid of Aubameyang. Arteta said that. So he's gaining an influence where the Cronkies are betting on him and betting on him and betting on him. And again, the flip side, he has to deliver. Clearly, you can't do the woe is meeting with Arteta. There is some degree in truth in the board need to do this and Arteta that and all of that kind of stuff in between. But you can't always blame the board for our issues. They're not telling him to sign all of. I'm not saying they're right. I'm just calling it as I see it as a fan because all of you are in it with me. Like none of you are got a leg to stand on really with what we face ourselves in. So I'm not drawing no sides, but they're not telling you to buy better left backs. They've allowed you to rip up X amount of contracts, sign X amount of left backs, X amount of goalies, spend. And I'm not saying these are the right or wrong options. I'm just saying they're allowing you to do anything. They bet on you more than they bet on Wenger to a degree, whether Wenger wanted to spend or not. They definitely bet on you at the time. Obviously, Emery was the first one through the door post Wenger, but they're betting on you. Emery was always head coach, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, but why has he been given the Wenger like stuff? But he ain't got the CV for Wenger, give or take. You know what Wenger was on. You know what Wenger was on. Let alone a football manager is doing all of those things, and he had the experience to match it. Through what he's done in the game. Whether Arteta can go do this, that, and the third, or not criticize him and be this in the game, whether it's at Arsenal or elsewhere, he ain't done none of that yet. It's all theoretical. Come from being Pep Guardiola's assistant. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm just painting the picture. So is he getting too much influence, rightly or wrongly? We could do other videos and look at stuff because it seems like there needs to be a David Dean kind of figure. Because it looks like Edu's voice was rightly or wrongly, Edu's voice was crowded out. And nothing's changed. It's taken too long to get a sporting director. How much of a say does Arteta have? And again, he did say in January, I thought it would have been solved by now and kind of was begging for attackers. So he's not quite there yet in terms of the power, but nothing's changed with Eddie. It doesn't seem like we're accelerating any summer plans. Didn't do anything in January. Nothing's changed. So you can say it's an Eddie issue or a broader issue, but there's got to be a correlation with Edu skating off and going on gardening leave. And even that, you go on gardening leave when you leave a job, unless there's, if there's bad blood. He didn't work out his tenure. Jason Ito is his number 2 and seems to be there. We've got to remember this is a political game like any other walk of life, people. There's got to be a correlation with that. And equally in Edu's favor, you do see, even with the Athletic, that praise Arteta and he was this, that, and the third. And there was a lot of concerns in the boardroom about several signings. We all see the language. And Arteta was the one that wanted it. They said Edu thought his voice was crowded out. He was frustrated with the goalkeeping pursuit and the going around with it. And you could argue he was messing around for the João Garcia thing. He had to pull a rabbit out of the hat with Neto. Apparently, he was disappointed about Raheem Sterling signing. And to back up Edu, if I'm honest with you, to be fair, can you sit there and say, when have you seen, and Edu's made, I'm not painting Edu out as no messiah, I do think there was some other players that could have been good for us and he wasn't allowed it. I do think he's made a lot of L's. I'm just calling it as I kind of see it, folks. When have you seen whether a signing's worked out for this football club, yeah? Edu signs a player, Raheem Sterling, on deadline day because the Nico Williams stuff, all that stuff was done. Forget it, it's gone. When have you seen Edu sit there and say, to be fair, we didn't plan to do this? Now, you could say maybe he's trying to add clarity to the fans and not take us for idiots for once and tell us what we could all see that we're scrambling around for Raheem Sterling. When has he ever said that about signing? Without that context, whenever he said that isn't what we plan to do. And I'm not saying Edu is sinister or wants Sterling to do wrong and that. And obviously he didn't say it like this per se, but if you were Sterling, and he's not an idiot, he knows how he ended up here, how would you feel? So Eddie's voice being diminished. And if the new one walks through the door, how big of a voice is he going to have? Is he just going to essentially be a number 2? Is there a correlation with Arteta maybe being fond of Jason Ito and Jason Ito growing into that role, someone the Cronkies can mold? Because to us on a sporting front, we never saw no signings. That's all we care about. We never saw no signings. We had injuries. We needed a lift. It never happened. But we hear in these same said papers that apparently Jason Ito is growing in influence behind the scenes and he's done this and that. Now, I don't know what he's doing in the back burners. He could be planning a madness for us in the summer. He could have tried to do certain things. He could have, I don't know. I don't know what he could have done. But to us as fans, what did you do? If you're Arteta, being sinister, obviously, you could say he wants Roberto Alabi's fellow countryman, all that stuff, and he's kind of work in practice. But you groomed Jason Ito into that role. The Cronkies seem to a degree that I'll be real. As much as I've got question marks over everyone, and like I said, smash the like button and let me know if you want another video of this ilk. It seems like they're working within their kind of thing, like self-sustaining, whatever. We know how they operate. Arteta to some degree is cool with that. Within that remit and within that framework and within what they deem they're able to do, they're giving him everything. Of course, there might be times where they stop giving the spoiled child something. Like the mum says one time you can't get them sweets, and he might throw his toys out the pram, but he's got to get on with it. That's why I think this stuff is multi-layered. And if you bet on someone that much, we saw with Wenger, because you could argue there was a cut-off point way before Wenger ever left. But I wonder if they ever truly felt we could have let him go because he's ingrained. And I know it's not the same, people, but remember, he's the manager. He's got a bigger say, especially in the modern day where the figures of Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson, they're not there again. They're not there again, them larger than life and what you could say Pep to a degree. But Pep don't arguably do that. Obviously, Pep's had a say, respectfully to City. It's built on us selling you players, really. But it was Barcelona like bag of staff there. But the remit comes from above. If Pep joined City all those years ago and, he weren't winning what he needed to win when he needed to, he's gone. So as long as Arteta hits certain remits, he's obviously going to be in a job. Bayern Munich don't operate like that. Obviously, we're not Real Madrid. We're not Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich don't operate like that. Barca don't operate like that. We don't want to be where Chelsea are, but they're not operating like that. City don't operate like that. Liverpool don't operate like that even, and the way their owners kind of run, forgive me if I'm wrong, it's kind of, you can see parallels between how Arsenal operate and, actually Liverpool be the success story, not just this season, that you might lose the war to City, but you can get a couple domestic trophies. You can, not that anyone wants to be in a final for the sake of it, but you can get in semi-finals and finals, because as much as Klopp done bare things, and I'm not even slating Klopp, there's been a number of finals, Liverpool and semis, that they haven't won. But he's being competitive. Obviously, he won the Prem and the champs, and them not have hit the jackpot now, because regardless of what happens last season, they've sought out Arne Slot. I don't know if he was their first choice or whatever. He's won the league and been there 2 minutes with 3 players' contracts running down. Clearly, I'm sure Liverpool fans similar to us reckon, regardless of how their season pans out, not just in the Prem, which they're going to win it, maybe the champs and maybe the League Cup, and they're in the final, They might say, do you know what, we hit the jackpot. Like, they done him dirty, gave him a half-fit Chiesa, pulled a miracle. So don't ever get it twisted. You can criticize the board and say Arteta has been let down, but no one put a gun to my man's head to take this job as well. I'm going sideways with it, but no one put a gun to his head, because I do think there's some. I'm not speaking about the people that like Arteta and don't like him, but they provide balance. I'm talking about them Arteta sexuals. I think that's the turbo social media, where I think they love Arteta and support Mikel Arteta way more than Arsenal. And I think that's wrong. Everybody gets praise, everyone gets smoke. Of course, you can lean towards we get rid of the board more, we get rid of Arteta. I don't think Arteta's done everything wrong, but he needs to go. I'm not talking about them balanced fans that support the club. I just feel the Arteta sexuals, and they're the ones that drive the narratives, because they're the ones in all those roles. They're the one, you got to remember, media is one of the most dangerous things in life to control a sentiment. Project Mockingbird, do your research and all of those things. I'm not saying it's like this, of course, but I just question mark the whole scheme of Arsenal Football Club and where we're going, and even that whole what we're going to do in the summer or not do in the summer. I'm sure they're drawing up plans, but if the last 2 windows were anything to go with, where it seems like there was them rumblings beginning, where Edu said, you know what, 5-6 years, I'm gone. Because the one thing about Edu going, that's one less person to blame. That's one less person to blame, because people always want to say the board failed Arteta. What if he failed the board? What if everybody's wrong in it? What if simultaneously in January, Arteta was begging for signings, he wasn't getting them? The board was saying, we can't get you what you want there, but you need this. Because I must admit, other clubs might put you under pressure. They might put you under a bit of pressure and say, listen, we're going to inject this money, you lot buy what you want. Or why'd you keep buying left backs and right backs? Why'd you keep, and I'm not even saying this is wrong, I'm just saying naturally we can see there's attacking issues. And one thing we keep hearing, and again, you could say I'm taking these things out of context, but one thing we keep hearing is Arteta wants a particular sort of player, market opportunity. So is it a case of, I'm not obviously being derogatory about Mikel Arteta, but is it a spoiled kid? He can't work with things, because you got to remember, even Klopp had to, again, going back to the Liverpool example, Klopp had to work with certain things. obviously it worked out. Michael Edwards, was saying we're gonna go get Mo Salah. Apparently at the time, Klopp wanted Julian Brandt. Now there's a reality, I guess, where Julian Brandt is better than Mo Salah, let alone doing whatever Salah's done. But if we consider reality, look what happened. So how far does it go? And I feel a lot of Arteta sexuals, because they've got so much love for Arteta, the only narrative they've got in their head is the Cronkies are letting my man down. Where I'm not being funny. Fair enough, it's one thing if you start a new job and then you're seeing the owner is on one thing and what they're telling you at the job interview and the signing up day is very different from when you're in the role. But he's been here long enough now, signed a new deal. He clearly likes how the Cronkies work. He might not be happy about everything, but he clearly likes the remit. Away from the poetic stuff of the purely on the field and what he wants to achieve as a manager. There's that. Because what I don't want us to get to is that stage now where we're a good team. He feels I've had enough now, I'm going elsewhere. Like in the early days at the Emirates where we would persist with certain players, they become half decent, they have to be sold. I don't think anyone's faultless in this. So yeah, man. What if Edu wasn't to blame necessarily? What if Arteta is getting too much of a say? And how do you lot feel about the grand scheme of things? Because we need to get the summer spot on. I hope Arsenal fans are not doing that thing where they're optimistic for optimistic's sake, man. I need to be optimistic on complete evidence, man. So on that note, people, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to get those thoughts off my chest, man. So peace.
Always